ready to head off the trails. I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on the Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We would appreciate that love. And shout out to Bumblefoot for that awesome intro music. We always appreciate that here at Spaced Out Radio. All right, you guys, please follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You guys can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com, and I have some pretty kick-ass live shows every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, where I do remote viewing shows and talk about the best in the cryptid research and all that good stuff. So y'all come hang out with me there. And please subscribe to my, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I think I already said that. And also check me out at thecryptidhunters.com. And if you guys would like to support what I do, go to my Patreon and become a member. I would really love to have you guys join my Patreon family and visit my shop, War Woman Goods. All right, y'all, I'm going to be in Las Vegas this week. I'm headed out to Las Vegas with Dave Scott and the Spaced Out Radio crew. We're going to be staying at the Golden Nugget, broadcasting live and direct. I'm going to be doing my show there next week. I only have a Saturday night show, or Saturday afternoon show, I guess. So y'all come hang out with us. It's going to be a party. All right. It's for real, like a party. It's going to be really fun. And then right after that, I'm flying to Grafton, Illinois, where I'm going to be hanging out with my guests tonight. I have Tyler and Aaron here from the Journey to Truth podcast. They are throwing a massive conference in Grafton, and we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, where I'm going to be presenting on remote viewing and cryptids, all of my cryptid research and all that remote viewing stuff that I do. All right. So, we have a fantastic show lined up for us tonight. Don't forget that right after this show, After Hours has a great program set up for us tonight. But hey, let's get to our guest. Okay. Like I said, I have Tyler and Aaron here from Journey to Truth podcast. Tyler Kiwala is an experiencer, independent researcher, and passionate disclosure activist. Most popularly known in the awakening community for Journey to Truth podcast, hosted by himself and fellow disclosure activist Aaron Kuhn. Together, they have created a platform for discussing any and all controversial and eye-opening topics without limitations in an effort to spread awareness to the masses. Aaron Kuhn is a researcher and activist in the Disclosure Awakened community. He's a devout Christian until the age of 25 when he had his awakening. Through questioning and researching anything and everything, he came across people like David Icke, David Wilcock, Jordan Maxwell, Dolores Cannon, and that whole crowd there. He started putting the pieces together on ETs, what's really going on our planet, our true history, and what is the reality anymore? I don't know. We're going to be talking to Aaron and Tyler tonight. So please help me welcome to the show, Tyler and Aaron. Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. How's it going?
It's going great. I am so excited to have y'all here tonight. I've never had y'all both on my show at the same time here. So this is going to be a good time tonight. Thank y'all for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Pleasure to be here.
For sure. Well, I know y'all are busy because y'all are working on a major conference coming up. I know last year you had the Secret Space Program conference. And this year, not only do y'all have a just incredible podcast, Journey to Truth podcast is one of the best out there, but you have a conference. I've heard y'all work really hard on these things. Mm-hmm. And I am honored to be a part of it this year.
Yeah, and we're honored to have you. We're really excited. Like 8 days away, or I think 8 days away now.
Yeah.
You're going to be working overtime coming straight from Vegas. So
I am. Hey, it's all fun to me. It's not work at all, Tyler, when you're having fun, right?
Right. It's true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's when you're having fun. Yeah. Well, I figured, listen, I wanted to bring you guys on tonight, not only to talk about the conference, but I thought we could talk about some of these cryptids that we have in this area where we're going. We're going to be down in Grafton, Illinois, and I just had the Midwest Night Watchers on my show last weekend, and they're from Illinois, and they talked about all these different cryptids around this area, and it's teeming with Bigfoots, dogman, Thunderbird sightings, goatmen. I mean, all this kind of crazy stuff. And I know you guys are very much into Sasquatch and disclosure. Okay, and that's kind of that's totally what I'm into, is putting the truth out there, and sharing my experiences, and you guys sharing your experiences, and just not making people believe what I'm saying. I don't care if anybody believes me, to be honest, with my experiences, but I do put my story out there. And so I think that's the important thing, and I think both of y'all probably have experiences with cryptids. Am I right?
I definitely do. Yes.
Tyler has a lot more than me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, I've had up at East Eddy Ranch up in Washington State. That's where I had my very first experience, any sort of interaction, which was basically a loud vocalization that I was woken up to. This loud vocalization while I was sleeping in my tent. No one else heard it apparently but me. And at the time I was even sleeping next to my girlfriend, who didn't hear it either, but it stood up every hair on my body. It's something I can't even mimic, something I can't even imitate if I wanted to. It was so deep, but it was a vocalization. It didn't sound like an animal's growl. It sounded more like vocals, like voice. It's hard to explain, but it was every hair stood up on my body, and that was the very first time I had any encounter at all. And then the next night I experienced my first tree knock, and then it all started from there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've had experiences. I've been doing field research for many years, and I know exactly what you're talking about. There's vocalizations that don't sound human, and it doesn't sound like an animal either. It's the oddest sound that you'll probably ever hear.
Yeah, there's nothing to compare it to except for other clips I've heard online of apparent Sasquatch. Like, that's the only thing I can compare it to. This really deep, like from the stomach sound,
Yeah. Have you guys heard the Sierra Sounds recordings from Ron Moorhead? And they're up from I guess it's Northern California, and there's so many different sounds and vocalizations that come from Bigfoots and Sasquatch. R. Scott Nelson, I had the pleasure of meeting R. Scott Nelson and Ron Moorhead around the same year or two, like the first couple of years that I started doing Bigfoot field research. They spoke at a conference here in Georgia, and that was the first time I ever heard Bigfoot language. And it's a combination of everything from archaic Japanese to German to Native American dialects to English, Spanish, all these different, almost like ancient languages combined. And it's mind-blowing.
That makes a lot of sense. It wouldn't just be like one group, right? There's multiple groups, multiple species, different types of Sasquatch, Yowie, Bigfoot, Yeti, whatever, skunk ape. There's a million different names for them, but probably they're not all from the same genetic lineage, so they might have different dialects and different voices and things of that nature. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's almost like they've been all over the world, and they're way more traveled than most of us humans over here, and it's just a combination of all the languages combined. It's like they're all one, which is interesting to me.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I've never. That's the only time I did hear a vocalization on another night. It was late at night out there, and it was more of like the yell that you would hear on Finding Bigfoot. So I can't rule it out. I have to. It could possibly have been a human. I don't know, but that's the only other time I've ever heard something like that.
Yeah. See, I love how you say that. You can't rule it out. Like I always have to rule out humans and anything else that things could be, like these sounds and stuff. We find a lot of tree structures and stuff out in the woods when we're doing our field research. And our go-to comment is always never rule out bored campers and drunk, campers, people that are out there bored, and, you just can't rule it out. But some things are just too absurdly huge, to be a drunk camper,
Right. Well, I've gone out there sober and done Bigfoot calls that someone else might think was a Bigfoot. So, I mean, when Finding Bigfoot came out and everybody started going out into the woods yelling and doing these Bigfoot calls and whistles and tree knocks, it got a little harder, I think, to identify or to know for certain that you were hearing something completely unknown.
It
Um,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why we go so far out in the woods. Like we go where nobody goes. Okay, we try to take the path less traveled. Okay, when we're out there doing our Bigfoot research, because places like, let's just say for instance, Uwharrie, North Carolina, that place was teeming with Bigfoots. I think it still is, but to this day, that's a hot spot now because of shows like Finding Bigfoot. So it's not really worth going there unless you know the sweet spots,
Right.
that are
Right.
still hidden from the general public,
Hmm.
especially on Memorial Day weekend and things like that, where we've got holidays coming up, and it's just not a great place to research if you're wanting to get down and dirty in the research.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is Memorial Day is immediately following our conference, and you mentioned Grafton cryptids, and there's a lot of lore in the area from everything you named: the dogman, the Sasquatch, the pterodactyls, even reptilian types, the goatmen, which I didn't even know about until I started researching it just recently. And there's something called the Grafton monster. Um, so we little did we know when we booked the venue that we were booking it in a hotspot like that. But I mean, just
Yeah,
down the street. What? Go ahead,
we didn't
Aaron.
even know that. Yeah, we found out after.
Right.
We're like, oh, sweet.
really?
Yeah.
And just down the street from the venue, there's a cave where there's this legend where these people were killed by this giant bird, and um, like
Whoa!
there's even like a board, like it says like I guess the legend on the board. It tells the history of it, and then there's like this big giant painting of this bird on the wall. But there's like underground tunnels that have been discovered near there. So there's a lot going on. And last year, people had some interesting experiences for sure.
Oh my gosh. So, one of the main cryptids in that area is the Thunderbird. Okay, now
Yeah.
there's a lot of Sasquatch activity out there, but there's a Thunderbird, and there's stories about a Thunderbird. As a matter of fact, in 1977, two huge birds were flying around. One dipped down and tried to grab a young boy, and his mother grabbed him right as the bird tried to take him off. They said the bird was as big as an airplane, y'all. As an airplane.
Wow.
That's a big bird.
I wonder
That's
if it's the
crazy.
same bird that they talk about in that cave because they found human remains in there, like the bird or whatever this thing was like bringing the bodies in there. I don't know.
It might
But
be.
I
Yeah.
can assure you, you won't get swooped up by a bird at our conference.
Yeah.
I hope not. I hope not. Well,
Hopefully. Hopefully
what's
you won't.
really what's really
No
cool
guarantee.
about these Thunderbirds is I've done like remote viewing targets. My thing's remote viewing and cryptids and everything. Y'all know that. And so I was asked to remote view an incident, or I was tasked with remote viewing. A guy that I used to do shows with, Jason McLean from Texas Front Porch, he's had a modern day pterosaur sighting, and some people say, and according to my data too, actually, these Thunderbird sightings that people have had were actually pterosaurs, modern day pterosaurs, like flying reptiles, which is really interesting to me as well. I think I have a couple of pictures actually I could pull up. I was
Ye-
trying to prepare for the show today, and I pulled up some pterosaurs. Okay.
Oh, I thought you had a real photograph of
I
one.
wish. Well, there's,
Would've been
well,
amazing.
the pictures of pterosaurs that I've seen, there's only one or two that I think could be legit.
I had I had a very vivid dream one night where a pterodactyl was flying over the highway while we were driving, and it was so enormous, like bigger than a plane, like something unimaginably large. And it was just so vivid. And I woke up just like, what the hell? But up at East Eddy Ranch, where I saw this or experienced the Sasquatch, there's been pterodactyl sightings there as well.
Mhm. Yep.
The entire Skywatch field,
Really?
like a group of 20 people all witnessed it. And then there's been day sightings of them, a couple different sightings out there. But I definitely believe that they're flying in and out of some sort of portal system, in my opinion.
Oh, I love that. Okay, yeah, I'm all about the portals, and I'm going to be talking about at the conference. Actually, I'm going to be discussing my team's experience with a portal, and maybe trying to get a little bit of that evidence out so I can show people there at the conference, yeah, I'm totally into that with like the interdimensionality, let's just say, of a lot of these cryptids.
Aaron, why don't you tell that story of Barry possibly going through a portal at Mount Shasta?
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, we're gonna have to talk about that. Yeah. And he actually had me remote view a holographic mountain, okay, where UFOs were coming in and out of it and things like that too. So, and these are blind targets. Barry's given me so many amazing blind targets, by the way.
Oh, I'm talking about a different friend, Barry.
Oh, another Barry.
Oh, you're talking about Barry Littleton.
No,
Barry Littleton.
I'm talking about Barry
Barry?
Everson, Aaron.
Barry Everson, our friend Barry Everson. He's going to be
okay.
Yeah.
Listen, when I hear Barry, all I hear is Barry Littleton.
Yeah. They're the two Barrys.
The new Barry.
They're both awesome.
Tell me about that.
I was at a conference last summer in Mount Shasta, and Barry Everson was there, and we went on a hike, and Barry with a group of us, and Barry kind of like went off on his own with a few other people. They kind of like did their own hike for some reason, because we all stopped at this location. If you guys know Lowell Johnson, it was Lowell Johnson leading the hike to like a certain energetic spot on the mountain, and then we all kind of stopped there, and he was like showing us stuff on his iPad, pictures and stuff, and then Barry and a couple other people like just keep walking up the mountain on their own little hike, and Barry somehow gets separated from those people on that hike and ends up like miles away, like I don't know how many miles away.
4 miles.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah, 4 miles away.
Like way more, and he's not a hiker. Like he's not.
Was he abducted or did he go through a portal?
He thinks he went through a portal. We all think he went through a portal.
Okay.
He ended up like 4 miles or whatever, so far away that it was physically impossible for him to have walked that distance in that amount of time that it took him to get there. And he ended up like way down the mountain somehow next to the road, and he called me and he's like lost, and he's like, I'm by the road. I'm like, by the road? What are you talking about? Like, what road? And I was like, when I realized where he was, I was just like dumbfounded. And somehow he got a ride from somebody drove him back up the mountain to where we were and dropped him off. So we all were like, the only explanation is that he went through some kind of portal and ended up where he ended up. So, but there's a lot of stories like that on Mount Shasta. Like there's a lot of crazy, there's a lot of missing person stories there. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in that mountain. It's a very energetic vortex,
Okay, well, where I do a lot of my research, we have missing persons clusters, and we also have ley lines and things like that that connect a lot of these areas that we research, and all these very much areas of high strangeness. Okay, and I'm wondering, I have not looked at the map if Grafton, Illinois is on a ley line, because it sounds like it has a lot of high strangeness in the area.
Well, what's interesting is we're just north of the 37th parallel, which is the UFO highway across the entire country. That's where everything's been cited, the cattle mutilations, I mean, all the paranormal, I mean, not everything, but that's just the largest line of hotspots, the 37th parallel.
Yeah, St. Louis, where Tyler and I are from. Yeah.
And then particularly in Missouri and Kansas and the surrounding states, the 38th and the 39th parallel, for some reason, are also hotspots. And I didn't even know that until I had this crazy dream one night and I decided to research it, look up the 38th and 39th parallel. So there is ley lines intersecting in the area. I don't know about Grafton exactly, but you're definitely onto something. If you were to look into that, I'd be curious. Well, there you go. Unfortunately, there's no state lines on that.
I can't tell. Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry. It's a North American ley line map map. I mean, not lap.
Actually, according to this map, there looks like an intersection of them, pretty close.
It looks not. It looks like it could be close. Okay.
Yeah, close for sure.
It looks maybe like above Tennessee, maybe Kentucky area. I mean, that whole area, is full of high strangeness.
Oh yeah.
So this is the ley lines, which is different from the latitude and longitude of the of the parallels.
It is, but yeah, I don't know.
Interesting still, though.
There's it's amazing how much high strangeness is in the Illinois area and all throughout the Midwest. I mean, we have a ton of dogman sightings coming out of there. Now, I was sent some pictures this evening. Okay, and these are legitimate pictures from a good source of a dogman on a game cam. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to show those tonight, but listen, you guys tune in on Wednesday, and I'm going to have D.A. Roberts on my show. We're going to be showing those at the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube, so y'all check those out. There's so many dogman reports from that whole area, so many Sasquatch reports. I've been told in this park where we're going to be staying next week, there's Sasquatch in that area.
Yeah, there's
it's right up my alley.
If you go to the website, Sasquatch is actually one of the presenters. His first time.
I saw that.
Sasquatch is presenting.
Yeah.
For the first time ever.
First time ever.
No, there's definitely, like, I didn't know it either. When I drove onto the property when we were searching for venues, immediately it says, "Don't be like Bigfoot, don't litter," whatever. There's like a Bigfoot sign, and then you drive back a little further, then there's this like cutout of Bigfoot in the tree line. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then there's like a Native American theme there also. So there's already the energy in the area as soon as you pull in. It just feels squatchy, if you want to use that word.
Right. I feel like we were led to that spot for the conference because it's like the perfect, spot. And we weren't like, it's weird. It's also weird to me that it ended up in Illinois because Tyler and I are on the Missouri side of St. Louis. And we were looking at places over there, and we kept finding ones that were like, it would work, but it doesn't really have the right feel, or like, it's not really exactly what we want. And then somehow we stumbled across that one on the Illinois side, and it both like immediately like, yes, that's it.
Stop looking.
Like that's the place.
Stop looking. We found it.
We found
you were
it.
called there. You had a mind meld with some Sasquatch, I bet, and they brought you there. They knew you were going to bring the Cryptid Huntress out there, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. No, there's a lot of people that are going to be at your conference that are actually very in tune with Sasquatch people. And wow, you guys just had a really interesting guest on your show this past week, I think, and with a message to humanity from Sasquatch. Can we talk about that a little bit tonight?
Oh yeah.
Or can y'all talk about that, please? It was amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Sunbo True Brother, and it was actually 2 weeks ago. But Aaron read the book, and I'll let you tell the story, Aaron. But he read the book Sasquatch. 3 books.
I'm on book 3. I've read the first 2 so far.
Well, you tell the story. Aaron's the one who actually found him and got him on our show. So.
Yeah. So I knew about. So he was a speaker at that Orlando conference, and that's when I first heard about him. And then I just had the name in my mind, like I'd heard of him through that, but I didn't know he was associated with Sasquatch in any way. And then I was on the internet one day searching around, and somehow that his book, The Sasquatch Message for Humanity, popped up, and I was like, oh, what's this? And I looked into it. And I was like, this looks amazing. And I realized there were 3 books, and I just bought all 3 and started reading them, and they were blowing my mind because it's like, so what the books are is he channeled a Sasquatch elder apparently. And the book's just everything that came through the channeling of this elder Sasquatch named Camus. And it's like the history of the planet, the history of their race, of the human race, of all these other races, galactic stuff. It's like everything. It's really mind blowing, and I think everyone needs to read those books. A lot of spiritual information, spiritual knowledge, and wisdom in there. That's very important. And so I think I just mentioned we went live a couple months ago for the first roundtable we did for the conference, and I mentioned those books on that. And then I don't know if he heard it or someone told him that was listening, and then he, I think on Facebook made a post about it, or something, and then I added him on Facebook and got in contact, and then that's how we got him on the show. And yeah, he's amazing. I don't know, like he's been around for a really long time, it sounds like, but we just now stumbled across him.
Yeah. It's awesome.
He communicates with Sasquatch like all the time, apparently, and he gets all this information from them, and he's in contact with them all the time.
Wow. Yeah. There's actually a friend of the show, Robin Haynes McCrae, is the same way. And she's in contact with Sasquatch in a psychic way constantly, all the time, and has them on her property and all that kind of stuff. Now, I do believe that Sasquatch are able to tune in to us psychically. And before we even go out into the field, they know we're coming. Okay. There's no doubt about that. I've never doubted it. And I think that that's why we have so much activity. There's been about 2 occasions where I've taken friends out to the field and who are researchers as well. And it never disappointed because I feel like they knew that I was coming. And I think it was shocking to the people who were with me. Okay. Because when they know you and they trust you, I believe that there's more activity and they're more willing to interact with you at that point. So yeah, I can't say, I mean, I've done like the mind melds and all that kind of stuff, but it was actually shocking to me too. I'm not gonna lie. Going out there and taking strangers to them. But yeah, I'm not one that can like just tune in whenever I want to like talk to them. Like I just don't, I guess maybe I just haven't tried. I don't have time. I'm so busy.
Right.
But you know, if I concentrated on it and I made the point to do it, I could. Now also, you guys are really big into the space programs and secret programs with our government.
Oh yeah.
Big time. And I'm just learning about all of that because it comes up in my remote viewing data all the time.
Really?
Okay? And yeah,
Really?
and I figured maybe that's something we could talk about a little bit. And I probably will talk about that at the conference too, because I can't control what my data says when I'm remote viewing. Okay. It's not me. It's just, I'm channeling information. And when I'm looking into cryptids, let's say dogman reports, a lot of dogman reports, I'm looking into attacks or a specific interaction with a dogman, and that the area where it is, sometimes there'll be like a facility underground facility where there's experiments with chimeras and weird stuff going on, and there's one in particular that was a layover, a hub for the secret space program. It comes up more often than not, actually.
That wasn't Diego Garcia, was it?
I don't know who that is. No, I was remote viewing the Joe Baldrec area.
That's the name of the island, Diego Garcia.
Oh no, I don't know.
Okay.
No, this was Joe Bald. This is in Missouri.
Oh
really?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where at Missouri?
It was in Joe Bald Recreation Area.
I don't know where that is.
In relation to us. I mean, there's a lot.
There's a dogman sighting there.
Missouri.
Actually, D.A. Roberts is he's got a podcast. They're live now at the same time as my show, and they were talking about it tonight. I remote viewed that for him. He had an experience where there's actually a dogman in a video that he has that he was unsuspecting of in the background. Yeah, I remote viewed that for him.
What's interesting is Missouri was going to be, actually St. Louis was one of the options for Space Force headquarters, because the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is like 15 minutes from my house. And because there was a St. Louis location, they were one of the choices, and which I found interesting. But even when you drive past that facility, it's even suspicious. You know, it's all gated. It's very government-like. And then there's a pond on the facility that has a fence around it as well. So I'm like, why have an extra fence around your like retention pond on the facility? I don't know what's going on there, but either way, that's neither here nor there. I just found it interesting. But then in St. Francis, Missouri, allegedly, according to some insiders, there's deep underground military base underneath the St. Francis Mountains, and my ear is ringing right now, so maybe that's true. And then there's a lot of chatter about things in the Ozarks, even a potential cloning facility.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, this stuff can't be proved because we can't go down there.
I think that was in my data. Okay, it's in some of my data. We're gonna talk about that at the conference then, since you're bringing it up.
And then there's really close to my house is Jefferson Barracks, which is apparently an abandoned military base, but it's definitely still active because I've had experiences there and have seen things and know people who have had experiences there. And there is a portal there that I have been to a few times, and it's definitely very interesting. And I found out by word of mouth through somebody else that knew about the portal as well. This is how it confirmed that it was real. I thought I was like the first one to discover it. I'm telling the story at the conference last year, and this girl's like, "Oh, you're talking about the portal at Jefferson Barracks," and she's like, "That old native."
But you didn't know it was a portal. You didn't think it was at the time.
No, I thought it was a portal.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. But she knew about it also. She saw it when she was a kid. She had an experience there, and she's the one who told me that it used to be a prison cell for Native Americans.
Oh, that's what you didn't know.
Yeah.
The prison. It was a prison cell. Yeah.
I didn't know it was a prison cell. I couldn't figure out what it was because it looks like this underground like little bunker thing. I thought maybe they were storing food or storing some type of something in there, like a storage facility or room. And here it's a prison the whole time. But I literally witnessed a shadow being walk out of that portal.
He said it ran right past you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a bunch in Missouri alone that would even lend, like I guess, be connected to what we would call the secret space program or just parallel space programs, covert space programs, whatever word you want to use for it.
Okay, so I was watching your promo video for the conference, and I think Sue Walker had mentioned something about, I think she said something about underground bases or something. I don't know, but it just rang a bell, and I resonated with it because that had been whatever. There were a couple of people on that promo who I'm going to be getting to hang out with you guys this next week. Whatever they were saying was resonating because I had remote viewed some of that stuff they were talking about, and it was in my data. Okay, so, and nice. I don't have any knowledge of any of this stuff. Okay, I'm a cryptid researcher. I'm not in the secret space program that I know of. You know, so, I don't. But it comes up in my data quite often when I'm remote viewing cryptids.
Right.
That's interesting.
Unfortunately, Sue Walker is backed out of the conference due to some health issues, but Margie Kay took her place. But what Sue was talking about in that video, so she channels the Ponti, which is a group of a type of a gray extraterrestrial, not the negative gray, but they would look similar to what we would imagine.
It looks similar to like a typical gray.
Right, but it's not. They call the Ponti, and they have an information station underneath the Sandia Mountains in New Mexico. And she channels and is in communication with them and the Sasquatch. She's also very much connected with the Sasquatch as well, if you follow her information. So she has a very interesting story, and we're really sad that she couldn't join us this year, but she'll be with us in spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Margie Kay will be there.
And she's a remote viewer.
She's a remote viewer. She's amazing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Margie's more of a seer. Like, I think she calls it remote viewing, but she has like this gift where she can almost like astral project or astral travel in real time. Like she just kind of parks her body and then just sends her consciousness out. It's not the typical remote viewing, triangulated method. Yeah.
Wow. Well, for whatever reason, we're all coming together for this conference, and it's like superpowers activate for all of us. You know, let's all unite here with all these enhanced human capabilities, because we all have them, and I think it's going to be really interesting to be around so many people who are utilizing them so efficiently at this one conference all together. It's going to be awesome. Now, we Johnny in the chat tonight, he's asking, have any of y'all seen dogman or Sasquatch teleporting or morphing out of trees? It is something, yes. No, I have not seen it personally, but I do believe it happens.
No, and I've never heard of that.
But I haven't seen it.
I mean,
I wouldn't doubt
talking about, I wonder if he means actually like coming out of a tree trunk, like, which is
okay. I'm not sure. However, I do have, there's a person on my team, my friend Tony, who has a story that he tells about his uncle, who back in the day, the police came to their house for whatever reason. His uncle ran into the backyard and ran behind a tree and came out the other side a dog. Okay, and ran off into the woods, and I hear that story quite often, and then when the police left, the dog came trotting back from the woods, and then ran past the tree, and on the other side of the tree, his uncle re-emerged from the behind the tree. So is that black magic? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what that is. Is it a portal? I don't know.
Right.
But I do hear these stories pretty often, which is odd. But
it's very interesting. I mean, you mentioned earlier, like we're trying to like get to the truth, but like the more we
Yes.
think we're over the target, the more we think that we're about to figure it out, everything changes and you have to reevaluate and go back to the drawing board and like, okay, well, what's going on here? Like, what is this reality really?
Yes.
Like there's so many questions now. Like you think you're going to get answers, but you don't. But what it does is it forces you to do the inner work, which we always talk about, which is actually the most important thing. But when you start doing the inner work is when you get to have experiences with beings such as a Sasquatch or other beings who are more advanced telepathically. Whenever you start raising your frequency and raising your vibration, you can kind of meet them in the middle, and now they can communicate with you if they'd like to.
Yeah.
You got to meet them halfway.
They choose you.
Right.
That's right. Well, I am convinced that we have to be on the right frequency. And so that's exactly what you're saying is that we have to raise our vibrational frequency to be able to communicate and to see them. I mean, I have been standing next to a person who could not see orbs dancing in front of our faces, except for through his camera phone on the screen. And my son and I could see them, these orbs that were right in front of us with our own eyes. So I know that the frequency is a huge factor when it comes to having experiences with cryptids and the paranormal.
So, yeah, I agree 100%. And I have a friend who just had that same exact experience. Her son saw the orb, but she did not. So Renee says that
use trees as portals.
The trees are used as portals. And then Matthew Morning says,
that makes sense.
Trees are often serve as gateways between dimensions. They tend to exist in a similar way across planes and are easily used by beings that can walk in between worlds.
There you go.
Wow.
Actually, at ECETI, that little vortex of trees out there where James says that's where they come in and out of. I mean, that would look like they're walking straight into the trees. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super behind on comments, y'all. They go so fast, and I'm slow. Okay, because I'm doing the interviews. But yeah, Dr. Ketchum, she's talked about that perhaps there's chimeras being made, things like that, with human mothers, with the DNA evidence of Sasquatch and things like that. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I'm not saying that Sasquatch are like that. Now, I do have to say that I have, with all the interviews I've done, you guys, some of the more interesting interviews that I've done about dogmen and Sasquatch are the ones about the military involvement with dogmen and Sasquatch. And I would assume that has a crossover with the secret space program and any kind of secret programs that are going on. I interviewed Jody Cook, and he was talking about how dogmen, and I've heard this from Tony as well. Tony Rodriguez actually had mentioned to me that he kind of backed up Jody Cook from the National or the North American Dogman Project, talking about dogmen being an intergalactic extraterrestrial being, like from another planet or something. So
it's entirely possible. Do you remember the James Casbolt interview I sent you where he talked about dogmen being created by the military and actually used on missions?
Yes.
In certain areas of the world, which I think he's a very interesting character. And back whenever he was blowing the whistle, he was a practicing Satanist. He openly admitted that he was a Satanist, but he was blowing the whistle on a lot of interesting stuff, including the secret space program, including cryptids and all of the above. Very credible, I believe. You just had to get past the fact that he believed in some very nefarious things, but
he was like a dark hat that was like disclosing their side for some reason. Yeah.
Well, I think he's in jail now.
Right.
Really?
Well, right. For doing that, probably.
For doing that. Yeah. That's what,
right.
That's what James Rink told me. Cause he said they basically gave him like the option to talk or not. And there are certain things he couldn't say, whatever. I think he pushed the limit a little too far, but it's interesting when he tells his space program experiences in the early days they would actually, there's technology now that they pull you right out of your room, just like an ET abduction, right out of bed. But he said that they were the branch of the military that he was in. They were actually sending them up in rockets. And then once it would be under the guise of a public rocket launch that people were just think was a payload going to the space station. But they would send this group of guys up there, and then once they were up in space, they would board another advanced craft, and then they would go either to the moon or Mars or wherever they were going. He had really interesting testimony as far as that goes. He's the only one I've heard say that's how he got to space.
Oh my gosh.
He said
Christina Gomez. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, he just said he actually had to train to be an astronaut. Like, it wasn't like
he did. Wow.
Yeah, he had to train to be an astronaut to even go on the rocket in the first place, which is a completely different testimony than the ones we usually hear.
Okay, and which is really interesting because I remote viewed the Apollo 11 moon landing, you guys, and and there's one main rule that you have when you're a remote viewer and you've trained the way I have. You don't remote view the moon, okay, or at least you don't tell people if you do it, okay. And I went against my better judgment, and I was planning a show about it, and I got that dreaded phone call about 2 hours before I went live, and I was pretty much told to be quiet about it. And I have a healthy dose of respect, okay. And the person who called me, I knew I probably shouldn't talk about it, but it was very disturbing actually to me about that. And there's some things, I'm not going to talk about it tonight, but there are some things about, what we've been told. It's not all true. And first of all, I want to say thank you to Christina Gomez, you guys, before we go further. Christina, thank you so much. You guys, please go subscribe to Christina's channel. She's amazing. I'm going to show you that portal, Christina, I promise. I'd love to bring you on my show whenever you're free. And you bring your ramen noodles. I'll bring the hot sauce. We're going to hang out. We're going to make it spicy. Okay. So thank you, Christina. You're the best.
Right.
But yeah.
Only the healthy ramen.
Only the healthy, some good ramen. Oh my gosh.
Normal ramen is not very healthy.
Right.
Oh my God. The Korean version. That's my favorite, y'all. They're so spicy.
Ooh, that sounds good.
With some hot sauce. But that, out of all the crazy things that I look into when I remote view, I found it very interesting that the one topic, the one subject that I had pushback on and got a call about, I got that proverbial knock at my door, was the Apollo 11 moon landing. Okay. Right. And I've never been bothered since. I know my boundaries, but I push them, however. But that was one where I wasn't really, I was kind of expecting it, but I wasn't. Okay.
Well, the entire of NASA and the Apollo missions were more of a dog and pony show than anything.
Yep.
It had more of a political agenda behind it, the space race. If you subscribe or believe in William Tompkins' testimony, he was one of the most credible whistleblowers, in my opinion, as far as the secret space program goes. And he said that he was in the think tanks that were actually developing the technology for the early days, the early craft for the secret space programs, things they had learned from the Germans, Project Paperclip and the German scientists and stuff like that. They were developing this advanced anti-gravitic technology long before the NASA and Apollo missions were ever even a thought. And then he thought it was interesting whenever the Apollo missions came across the desk, and he was in this think tank to develop rockets to get to the moon, and it didn't make any sense to him at all why they would go backwards and try to develop rockets for this space race. And he realized it was complete political agenda. That he's like, he was like, we were already in space. We already were on the moon and Mars, and then they were going to the moon in rockets publicly. He's like, it didn't make any sense at all. So anything that you've seen as far as that goes,
like the real technology they already had, and they wanted to keep that hidden, of course. And they're like, we're going to create this joke rocket primitive technology as, this is all we can do. It was a cover for the real stuff, and it was a dog and pony show, and it was for political reasons.
Okay, so what I can say, y'all, I'm not going to get into details at all, but I can say what I put the food for thought, as Barry Littleton says. The food for thought
yes, he does.
Was perhaps they did not get there the way they said they did. Okay.
Right.
That was my only good takeaway that I could pretty much give away was I just question whether they got there the way they said they did. Because I don't think they did.
Well, it's all but been proven that Stanley Kubrick filmed it basically has been proven that he did film the moon landing, and it was filmed in a studio, and what we were shown or what the public was shown was just basically a movie, honestly.
My theory, though, they did film the fake footage, but then they did go there, but what they showed was either all or mostly the fake footage. But then supposedly the story is they went to the moon. So we were already on the moon, but this was like NASA going to the moon, and then they get there and they find all this stuff there and all these craft and these beings, and they basically get told, you're not welcome here, go back home. You have no
jurisdiction.
And tell them, like you're not allowed to come here. You're not authorized. Like,
right.
And that's why we haven't publicly been to the moon in 50 plus years.
And what's interesting about NASA also is everything they show now is fake. The space station footage is green screens. It's almost like they're messing up on purpose.
Right.
I mean, the rocket launches fail. It's laughable at this point. But what I think personally is, NASA has to put on this front like they have a handle on what's going on in space when they actually don't even have jurisdiction. I don't think they're allowed in space. That's why they have to fake everything. They have to think, the public has to think, because this is their whole show, their whole narrative, their agenda. They want the public to think that they've got a handle on everything that's going on in space, and they have control of our space and everything that's happening on and off our planet, when they really don't have any jurisdiction up there.
No,
So,
well, NASA was created.
Yeah.
NASA was literally created as a fake cover to appease the public, so the real stuff could go on unimpeded and without any scrutiny, without anyone, people. So we think we have a real space program, and that's it, while the real stuff's all hidden, and the real technology that is not rockets, which is ridiculous.
and it's used to funnel money into the real programs,
right?
Like
and it's used to money launder money.
Yeah.
Into
There's
the
so
real
much
stuff.
there. That's what it's all about. It's all that money stuff. Okay. Now, Barry, I don't know if you guys are familiar with my remote viewing show, but let me tell you, Barry Littleton, I taught him how to assign me coordinates for targets. And he has got the most genius targets, y'all. And one of them was actually the TRAPPIST-1 star system. And another one was Earth's natural weaponized portals. Okay. And so I'm remote viewing these things. I'm going to the sun. I've got UFOs coming out of the sun and in and out like spacecrafts when I was remote viewing the Earth's weaponized portals. Okay. I went on TRAPPIST-1, I was sent through a wormhole when I was remote viewing. And you guys, y'all know these are blind targets. So I don't know what I'm looking at, but I am being sucked in through a wormhole and spit out in a planet which looks like a futuristic Earth. And I thought it was Earth in the future, but there was a lot of slavery going on and things like that. A lot of humans, and it was. So I'm going to be talking about this at your conference, of course. But these are some amazing targets. I do believe there is some connection to the secret space program, perhaps on some of these other planets. And so it crosses in and it overlaps the cryptid world, in some way, and with some of the stuff that I look into.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And
it does.
Tony Redriggs talks about in the series Colony, like he saw creatures like Bigfoots and things that we would call cryptids, I guess. But
there's a lot of UFO sightings connected with Sasquatch too, as well. Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And there's people that have claimed to have been on craft and seen Sasquatch on craft. Like many people claim that, and then the Sasquatch themselves are supposedly essentially an ET race. Well, they're not an ET race because they're from here, but they've been around longer than we have, supposedly. But they have their own craft, supposedly, if that's true, and they can travel interdimensionally and all this stuff. So they're what we would kind of consider like an ET race, essentially.
Right. Derek's comment real quick said NASA is the real deal. They just don't want to give out any information. It's definitely possible that there is a faction of NASA. Everything is compartmentalized. There is a faction of NASA that has their own, quote, secret space program that is operating in space, actually, but that's not.
But they're compartmentalized, and they're not telling the rest of NASA anything.
That's why certain whistleblowers say when they've been taken to the moon, like especially inside the moon, they've seen NASA personnel there, like with actual NASA logos and stuff. But
inside the moon, you just said inside the moon. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That would be. That would be a compartmentalized program, right? The surface level engineers and scientists and whoever's.
Here's the number one thing to realize about all these programs and institutes. Everything is extremely compartmentalized, like to the degree of need to know, where like if you don't need to know, the compartments below you or outside of those they're not going to know. Like, so it's really funny to me when like certain people claim just because they worked at the CIA, or just because they were in Antarctica, or just because they were in this one I would have known that because I worked there. It's like, well, no, because there's all these compartments that have they will not tell other compartments anything.
If you're building if you're working for Northrop or Boeing or any of the aerospace industries, or whatever it is, you're going to be in your facility, you're building, let's just pretend like you're building chairs, seats for a spacecraft you think might be an airplane. You aren't told what you're building the seat for. Your job is to build the chair, to build the seat. That's it. Right. There's people out there working in these programs, working for these corporations that are literally building components for UFOs, and they don't even know that that's what they're working on. That's how compartmentalized it is.
That is really interesting that you brought up Boeing and UFOs, because I was sent some pictures of some alleged, and they look legit, UFOs sitting in a hangar at Boeing. Okay, and I wish I had those to pull up tonight, because I'd show them on the show.
Was it the Boeing or Pentagon? Was it
Boeing.
Recent? Oh, was it? Yeah.
I was told they were leaked pictures from. Well, maybe I was part of that leak. I don't know. I haven't shown them on my show yet, but I do have them, and I'll show them at the conference actually, just to show them. The person that sent them to me, I only get legit stuff from this person. So we do have a question in the audience though. Would you like to address that first though, Tyler?
The Boeing thing? I mean, 100% Boeing's involved with the SSP. There's all kinds of there's all kinds of information out there surrounding that. So that doesn't surprise me even the slightest. I mean, the entire infrastructure, our entire infrastructure has a double meaning. I mean, what we think is actually happening, it's actually utilized for something else. It's hard to explain, but we can address this question.
Totally. This is Christina again. Hey, Chris, thank you for that super chat. Thank you for the second super chat, Christina. You're the best.
Thank you,
what do you guys predict will happen with the next phases of the Artemis mission to the moon, and also the push to get us to Mars? Great question.
I've learned that anytime I predict anything, I'm wrong.
Me too.
Exactly.
There's I don't know much about the Artemis missions to the moon. I've read about it a little bit, but I don't follow a lot of that stuff, just because I know that's part of like the dog and pony shows.
The dog and pony show.
Yeah, the smoke and mirrors. But
anything mainstream is pretty much going to be a dog and pony show. That's what we've learned through our years of research and whistleblower testimony, and everything is shown that anything that's mainstream that they blast out to the public, oh hey, this is going on, it's a dog and pony show. But it's not anything really real.
I do have something. You're right, but I do have something to say about that. We're not going to get this like rip the Band-Aid off disclosure that we think or we hope that we're going to get. No. So they're not just going to come out and say, oh yeah, we've been lying to you for decades, and we have these programs that exist. We have breakaway civilizations on planets and asteroids and moons all over the galaxy. They're not going to say that. what they're going to do is they're going to go to the moon, the Artemis missions to the moon, and they're going to slowly start, taking the public there eventually. And then the public is going to slowly start to get to go to Mars. And this is at least their plan. So even though it is smoke and mirrors and dog and pony show, that might be the way we actually learn about this stuff. It's going to be this slow rollout.
They're gonna use it, to eventually, to disclose, but it's still pretty fake. Like right now, at least, it's like, I don't know. Like, we'll see. You never know.
Right.
Aaron, everything feels fake and rigged to me at this point in my life.
Right.
Everything. It's hard to know what's real and what's not. I mean, it's not hard to know because I go with my gut now. And and like Tyler and I were talking about before the show started tonight, our bodies react to the truth and to what resonates with us. And so that's how I can gauge whether something's real or not now, is I go with my gut and I see how my body reacts, just like Tyler was saying before we went on the air live tonight. Yeah, same way.
Yeah, same. She told me something that I don't even know if you want to share it.
I can share it. Well, I did a show about it. I remote viewed Patty from the Patterson-Gimlin film, and Barry Littleton and I did a show on it. And if anyone is interested in seeing that, it's on my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. What I remote viewed was Patty getting shot. She was running from gunfire.
That day.
Yeah. That day during that video, it was very disturbing, but people have suspected that for a long time, and people like MK Davis have done shows on it, and or have been done videos on it, and people have been putting it out there. But anyone who talks about it gets attacked immediately. I did have a great response for it, but it's very sad. And but when we talk about that, it resonates with a lot of people because we know there was something a little more nefarious perhaps going on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that's the case. Yeah.
Right. Well, that would go with what Sunbo was talking about. There's a whole genocide agenda against the Sasquatch. Anyway, the government has been literally hunting them for whatever reason, because, we can only speculate.
By the government, it's the cabal, the deep state, not the surface level. And in the Sasquatch Message to Humanity books, the term he uses is the lower lords to describe basically the dark forces that are on this planet trying to control things. And they are hunting the Sasquatch, and they're like, they describe in the book how like the main reason they have to stay in hiding and protect themselves so much is because the lower lords are trying to exterminate them because of their powers and who they are, and they're a huge threat to the control system, to the dark forces.
Much like anyone with superhuman capabilities who have, or enhanced human capabilities who have come into their power. And so there is a fight of good against evil right now. And it's all a matter of getting the truth out there and resonating with the message. And so I thank you guys so much for being here and being my guests tonight. I cannot wait to come to your conference and present. And please tell Tyler, Aaron, y'all tell everybody where they can find you guys, and just a quick little message about your conference, if you can.
As far as the conference goes, journeytotruthcon.com has all the information you need. Everything you want to know is on their website. There are tickets still available, 4-day passes, 1-day passes. And I know it's last minute, so if you can't make it in person, we do offer live stream passes on the website as well. And the live stream pass does include a 6-month replay, and it's interactive. If you join the Telegram chat and buy the live stream ticket, you can ask questions to the presenters. If they do a Q&A at the end of their presentation, you will be allowed to ask questions if you purchase a live stream ticket. So that's kind of cool. It's a little bit interactive. Nothing, spectacular, but journeytotruthcon.com, all the information is there. And Aaron, you can tell them about where else to find us if you want.
And you can find us on YouTube under Journey to Truth Podcast, or on every social media platform under Journey to Truth Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, iTunes, and Telegram. And
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
And we just recently started a Patreon where we do monthly webinars. So We did the UFO history timeline for the first one, UFOs for Dummies. Then we did the Voice of God technology, where I talk about mind control and that specific technology. And the next one we're doing is called It's an Illusion. Movie magic isn't just for Hollywood. We're going to be talking about clones, holograms, deep fake
Big
technology.
subjects.
Yeah. There's a bunch of massive,
you guys,
yeah,
human cloning, human cloning, cryptid cloning, all that stuff with giants, all that, it's all in my remote viewing data and all these shows that I've been doing. It's a huge topic. So I'm going to talk about that at your conference too. I cannot wait, you guys. Thank y'all so much. I thank y'all so much for being here tonight. I cannot wait to hang out with you guys in person. We're going to have a blast. Conference is going to be phenomenal. So thank y'all for having me, and thank y'all for being here tonight. Okay, I'm going to see y'all in Grafton.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
y'all.
Can't wait. Awesome. Okay, have a great night. I'll see y'all next week. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all. Okay, everybody. I ran over a little bit tonight. We were having way too much fun. Okay. Don't forget that right after this show, we have After Hours. Actually, they're already live at this moment. So y'all go over there and see After Hours. I will see you guys tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio. Until then, I'm Jessica Jones. I'm headed off the trails. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Y'all have a great night. Bye.